So we decided to do our project on homelessness in Arizona. And this isn't really about trying to come up with any solutions or really talking about it as a really big issue at all. We just want to examine it and kind of understand what it means to be homeless in Arizona. Because I think as students, it's something that we see every day, but it's something we don't experience and maybe we never will because we're privileged and it's really difficult to be in this kind of position and kind of being on the outside looking in, but this is what we're trying to do. That's why we decided to do this project.
I'm Olivia Richard.
I'm Katie Malice.
I'm Kelsey Grega.
I'm Leah Jurians.
And I'm Ben Moffat.
So, something that I've always noticed with homelessness is that it's something that can happen to anybody, and if you just talk to somebody on the bus stop or anything, if you take the time to, you realize that in a lot of these cases, they owned a house and had a family and everything was fine, and because of this or that, sometimes it's in their control, sometimes it's not. That's why they find themselves in that position. So that's something I found really interesting, and I want to learn more about that.
I mean, I definitely agree. I think that there's a conception that maybe homelessness is something that is self-driven. Maybe it's a drug issue gone bad. Maybe you're a criminal, and this is the post life.
Mm-hmm.
But when you really, I think that if you talk to people, you'll find out that homelessness has many facets. I mean, if you just talk to someone, it could be domestic violence. It could have been a veteran and they just couldn't find a job. I think there's a lot of different motivations and reasons that lead to this.
I mean, I totally agree that it can in some ways it can happen to anyone. There's not a specific demographic that it happens to. But in some ways I don't think it can happen to anyone because most people have a safety net. Most people, if you lose your job and you lose your home or traumatic things happen so that you end up in a position where you don't have a house or don't have a shelter, there's people in your life that will take you in, and people in life like your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, friends, whatever. But the people that end up homeless, it's not fair, but it's like these people don't have anyone to help them. So when they're so close to losing that next paycheck, if they lose their paycheck and they're homeless, they don't have anyone to rescue them, they don't have anyone to help them. And I think that's mainly why I was so interested in joining this group and working on homelessness, because there's just an underreported, undervoiced community, and I felt like you have to give these people a voice, and that's the reason why we're in journalism.
And I don't mean to interject before Ben talks, but that's really interesting that you say underreported, because I think in some ways that is true, but I don't think the issue so much is that it's underreported. I think it's reported the wrong way, because I think it's reported in ways that it's just numbers and facts and statistics.
Yeah.
Right.
Because when you think of homelessness, you don't think of a face or a person, or you don't think of it as people driven. You think of it as just another problem that you vote on, or another problem that you call the police for, or and I think that's one of the things that we can maybe accomplish with this project, is just sort of humanizing the concept, taking an abstract thing and making it a lot more literal, so that when people pass homeless people on the streets, they don't just walk on by and avoid eye contact and pretend that they don't notice people. Hopefully people will just kind of treat homeless people like
human,
the people that they are.
I mean, I also I find it kind of interesting that you said everybody has a safety net, and that maybe homelessness happens to those who don't have that safety net. But also I think it's interesting what happens when the safety net just say enough's enough, I can't do it, and they give up on these people. I think there's a lot of giving up on these people, that repeated giving up and quitting and just casting them aside that may lead to this. That's something that really interests me, because what could lead someone, or at what point do you just say, I'm going to stop caring?
Well, I mean, it's like
or
not to
stop
pass
doing?
judgment, because you don't know, what the real situation is. It's different for every person.
Yeah, no,
it
I'm
could be, my child has a drug problem, and I've tried and tried and tried and tried to help, and I can't. And sometimes the safety net or whatever the supposed safety net can't help a homeless person. But that's why that there's programs. That's why that the community itself is large. Says, okay, you're tired, pass the baton to me. I can help.
That's what I was going to get at, the community involvement, when maybe an individual can't do any more, we as a community can, and what's going on, who is helping these people, and what's being done, and what's working, what's not working, what can we implement to help the homeless of Phoenix.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what we're looking at with this project.
We also want to kind of examine how Phoenix's services may differ from other states, and it's difficult to really do that since we're kind of stuck here in Arizona, but I think there's ways of finding it out. We can look at numbers, and we can also talk to people too who have also been homeless in another state.
You can reach out to support coordinators and project managers for homeless support organizations in other states, and just get their opinion. Maybe you can get people who've worked in multiple states and see how things stack up.
I also really want to breach the topic of like this concept of criminalizing homelessness. It's happening a lot, especially in the Phoenix area. Just like the idea of median laws,
The bumps on the benches.
things like that, where they're just like saying, we don't want you here, but we're not gonna create a place for you to go. We just don't want you here.
Yeah.
And I just think there's something really wrong with creating a law that targets a specific community or a specific demographic. Like me, as a privileged 19-year-old girl living in Scottsdale, that's not going to affect me. Median laws aren't going to affect me. The only demographic that they're going to affect is the homeless. And I think there's something really wrong with that.
And for me, one thing I really found interesting and I would like to further explore is something that may not be really talked about or looked at, is the victimization of the homeless. A lot of young people and just bad people target these homeless individuals, and nobody does anything because they're the homeless. I mean, my mom's a prosecutor, and right now she's working on a case, and this is a homeless woman who deliberately goes to train stations, and she gets there early, she sets her bags down, she sits in the middle of the bleachers that have the rails, the bleacher seats, and that's where she sleeps. Why? Because people will try and pull her off those seats, and people try to rape her. They try to grab her, and that's where she feels safe, when she can lock her arms. I think there's different aspects of, homelessness, and they're victims, they're people just like us, and I think that through this project we can look at them as a human being and a 360 image of maybe what homelessness looks like.
Mm-hmm.